Before we get started into PaintShop Pro 2022, there are two books that I need to mention. The first is the PaintShop Pro 2022 Fundamentals book. This is available through Amazon, and it contains detailed step-by-step instructions for all the tutorials in the video series. The book has 5 chapters: modifying photos, enhancing images, drawing, painting, and customizing the user interface. Each chapter has detailed step-by-step instructions for the various projects that you'll see in the videos. The second book is the PaintShop Pro 2022 Fundamentals Sample Image Book, and this book is available for free from my website, lenatlenshamn, and you can download it as a PDF file. This book contains the sample images that can be copied and pasted into PaintShop Pro as you go through the tutorials. When you open PaintShop Pro for the first time, you should see the welcome screen. If you don't see the welcome screen, click on the little Home tab. And as you can see, we're using PaintShop Pro 2022, the Ultimate version. There are a number of different workspaces available. There's a photography workspace. There's an essentials workspace. This has a minimum set of tools designed for beginners. There's a complete workspace. And since you will be an advanced user very soon, we'll be using the complete workspace. In the Ultimate edition of PaintShop Pro 2022, there's also a Sea to Sky workspace available, and that's for people who want to work on seascapes or landscapes. If we select What's New, we'll see a list of different videos that are available, put out by the Corel company. If we click on Learn, you'll see more videos that are available from Corel. If you're using PaintShop Pro for the first time, I encourage you to visit the store, select the Creative Content filter, scroll all the way down until you see the free options. I've already loaded one of the free options and it doesn't appear on the list. However, when you select the Creative Content filter, and you should click on this, download, and install it. The Creative Content Pack includes a lot of picture frames, a lot of picture tubes, and a lot of other basic additions to the PaintShop Pro program. Once the complete workspace has been selected, we can select Get Started, and then we can select a new document. And that opens the New Image dialog box. And we can choose either a blank canvas, or we can choose from the many preset templates that are available. For example, there's a collection of standard photo size templates. There are templates for different paper sizes. There are templates available if you're creating images for the web. If we scroll down, you'll see there are templates available if you're creating images for Apple iPads or Google Pixel or Samsung and more. There are also templates available for business cards, DVD labels, postcards, and more. If you're doing presentations, you can select templates from one of the standard screen resolutions. And if you're creating images for social media, there are templates for that. In our case, we're going to create a custom canvas for our example. I'm going to set the width to 1024 and the height to 768. And I'm using a smaller resolution for the examples because the file sizes will be smaller and they will load faster. We're going to use the raster background, color white. We're not going to have the transparency toggled on, so we'll toggle that off, and then we'll go ahead and create this new blank canvas. If you're running PaintShop for the first time, you'll probably see this guided tour pop up. You can click on this box so that you don't show this tour every time you open PaintShop. but let's take a look at the guided tour. First of all, they're pointing out the home page. Next, there's an Edit tab, and we're using the Edit tab version for our complete workspace. There are tools over here on the left side, and when you select a tool, the Tools Palette toolbar will appear, also known as a context toolbar. This changes every time you select a tool. The Materials palette provides you with a place to select colors or materials for either the foreground or the background of your images. The Layers palette will allow you to see and organize the different layers when you get into more complex image creation. And in the top toolbar, there's an option for creating new images, and that finishes the tour. Now, before we go any further into PaintShop Pro, I'm going to adjust some things on the user interface. First of all, I'm going to select the user interface from the menu bar, and I'm going to select the medium size tools here. You notice that there are three choices. There's small, there's large, but in these examples I'll be using the medium size. Also, in the user interface pop-down, we can choose the workspace color. The default was dark gray. I'm going to change it to light gray. Now, there are a couple of palettes that we don't need for the basic exercises, so I'm going to turn off the Learning Center palette, and I'm going to turn off the Organizer palette. That gives us more room to work. I'm going to switch from the Swatches Materials choices to the HSL map, and we use this area to select either foreground or background color or material. Now that we can explore the various tools for modifying photographs, but we need a photograph to work on. I'm going to use the Alt-Tab trick to open the sample book, and I have the sample image book PDF file open using Acrobat Reader, and I've turned on the page thumbnails. So I'm going to go to page 1, and I'm going to select the fall grass image. Once I've selected the image I want, I right-click and select Copy Image. That puts it into the invisible clipboard. And now I'm going to use the Alt-Tab trick to return to PaintShop Pro. And in PaintShop Pro, I no longer need this opening image, so I'm going to close that image tab. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Paste as New Image. And that pastes the clipboard image into PaintShop. I can zoom in and out of this image by simply using my mouse wheel, or I could also use one of the view commands, zoom in, zoom out, zoom to 100%, or whatever. I find that using the mouse wheel frequently is an easy way to zoom in and out of the images. The first tool we're going to inspect is the cropping tool. Select that tool, and then I can drag out an area to crop. Left click, drag, release, and that makes a crop selection, and I have multiple choices at this point. Once I have a cropping selection open, there is this little toolbar for cropping. Let's take a quick view of the different options. Here we can change depth of field, or we can open up the one-step photo fix. Right now we're selecting an image by freeform. If I select this arrow, you'll see there are a number of different options. I can choose from the 16:9 aspect ratio to other different aspect ratios, or use the original proportions or make it square. Just for the sake of discussion, let me choose the 5:7 aspect ratio. What that did is reset the cropping area to the full width, but a little is clipped off the top and a little is clipped off the bottom because the original photograph did not have a 5:7 aspect ratio. Now, if I grab one of the grab points and drag, I can resize the crop area. However, the aspect ratio remains the same no matter what I do with the dragging. If I use the center crop point, no matter, I'm locked into a 5:7 aspect ratio right now. And if you watch the cursor will change depending on where you have it positioned. Notice with the cursor there compared to the cursor in the corner, or in the middle, or there's even a place where I can rotate the cropping area. Or when I have the double cross cursor, I can click and drag the cropping area around. There's a tool that allows me to rotate the crop area from portrait to landscape or back. And there's an interesting collection of tools here that allow you to use some of the traditional composition techniques. For example, the rule of thirds or the golden spiral. If you've studied composition, you know that artists over the years have had these different ideas of how to compose images. And PaintShop Pro provides us examples of the various standard composition rules of thumb. There's a diagonal, there's a triangle, or there's just a straight grid that we can use. And in this example, I'm going to go back to the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds says that the points of interest should fall at one of the intersection lines, or the horizon should fall on one of the rule of thirds lines. All of this, of course, is subject to artistic interpretation. The next tool is the clear tool, and this will remove any current cropping areas. So let me drag out a new cropping area, and let me set from freeform, let me set the 5:7 again, and let me choose the golden spiral. And let me drag this around. And I'm going to try to drag this so that the focus point of the golden spiral corresponds with this vanishing point on the photograph. Once I've set my cropping area, I have two choices. If I accept it, I will be replacing the current image with the cropped image. The other alternative is to use the crop as new image tool. I'm going to do that. And now you see I have two images open. I have the cropped image and I have the original image. Let me do a couple of other croppings. Let's try a 16:9. I think I'll switch to the rule of thirds. Drag the corners in a little bit. And let's see what I'm going to do. There's no end of adjusting and experimenting that you can do. So let me crop that as a new image. And let me go back and change this to, I'll change the aspect ratio to the original proportions. And with the golden ratio selected, move this around. And again, you can have a lot of fun playing with this, deciding exactly how you would like your image to look. Crop with a new image again. And one more time, just for fun. Let's make a square crop. And let's save that as a new image. Okay, I'm going to get out of the crop tool now. And notice that we have a number of images open. And we can switch between images by simply clicking on the tab, or we have other ways to display these image windows. For example, if I go to Window on the menu bar and select Cascade, you see a big stack of images now, and I can click any of the images in the stack to bring it to the front. And if I have any image window open, watch the cursor. When you get to the edge here, you see the double arrow. I can change the width of that window. I can change the height of the window. And I can move it around. If I use the tile horizontally option, you see how it stacks them up. And I'm going to return to the tabbed option. This is probably the option I use most often. Now I have several different images available now. And perhaps I'd like to take one of these images and add a fancy picture frame to it. To do that, I'm going to go to the Image pop-down and select Picture Frame, and that will open up the Picture Frame dialog box. I'm going to move it over here. If I select the picture frame image, it will open up the collection of all the picture frames that are available in my installation. And because I've installed the Creative Content collection, I have a large variety of picture frames, and it's possible to sort those into different categories. For this example, I think I'll try the gold frame. And then I can either frame the canvas or frame a layer. We haven't gotten into layers yet. I can frame inside the image, or I can frame outside the image. Now this frame is pretty symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if I flip or mirror or I rotate the frame. Once I have the frame selected, I simply select OK, and the picture frame is added to my picture. Let me experiment with a different picture frame. Choose a different image here. Once again, I'll select Image, Picture Frame, and in the Picture Frame dialog box, let's choose a different option. Let's choose, how about a certain mat for it? There are lots of mat options. If I get into the subcategories, I can just select the mats. So let me select a parchment, or maybe a gold mat. And now that I've selected that frame, I say OK, and now I have a picture with a mat. If I don't like the way that mat is, if I would like to have a bit more symmetrical around the picture, I can always use the crop tool, and I could crop here, and by eye I'll try to balance. Whoops, need to adjust this. I'll try to balance the sides of that mat, and OK. And so you see there are lots of options of picture frames that we can use. As you have seen, using the Picture Frame tool has provided a lot of options for enhancing your images by adding frames or mats or whatever. There's another tool in Paint Shop Pro 2022 That sounds like a frame tool, but it's completely different. The frame tool is not to be confused with adding picture frames. In order to demonstrate the frame tool, we need to do some preliminary work. I'm going to go ahead and close all of the windows that are currently open. And if you want to save any of your images before you close all the windows, you had best do so. In my case, I'm not going to save any of them. I'm just going to close them. And then I'm going to go back to the sample image book and load several images to use in this demonstration. I'm going to scroll down the list of images, and I'm going to select Image 6, Windmill, right-click, copy image, back to Paint Shop, edit, paste as new image, repeat the process 2 more times. For the clouds image, and the tulips image. Now I have 3 images available to demonstrate the frame tool. But I would like to have these images stored in a nice tidy folder. So I'm going to go ahead and say File, Save Copy As, and then I'm going to go and create a new folder and save the 3 images in that new folder. Notice that when I'm in the File Save As dialog box, I notice that the name of this particular image is not right. And notice that there's a spelling error here. Well, while I'm in this dialog box, I can right-click on that and say Rename, and go in and edit the name. And then enter, and that allows me to rename images even if I'm in the middle of the Save Copy As dialog box. Now that I have a folder with the desired images stored, I'm going to go ahead and open the organizer. So in the palettes tool, I'll choose Organizer. And in my case, the 3 images are here. In your case, you may have to open up the navigation tool and go searching on your system to find the folder that has the desired images. Now that I have the images in my organizer handy, I can go ahead and use the frame tool. However, first I want to create a new canvas as my basis. So I'm going to say New, and this time I'm going to open a larger canvas, and I'll make the new canvas be 1920 by 1080 and say OK. Now I have a canvas where I can add frames, not picture frames, but frames. When I click on the frame tool, I have 2 options. I can have a rectangle or an ellipse shaped frame. I'll start with a rectangle. I'm just going to drag out a frame here. And once I have a frame, I'm going to drag and drop an image from the organizer into that frame. And notice once that's done, the system has added a new frame group layer, a layer for just the frame, and a layer for just the image. So if I want to change any of these things, I need to be sure I'm working on the right layer. For example, when I have the frame group layer selected, I can drag that frame to a new location, I can enlarge it, move it around, or I can select the windmill image layer, and now when I start moving things around, notice that I'm moving the image inside of that frame. I'm not moving the frame group, but I'm only moving the image. Now I'm going to go and create an elliptical frame and drag one out here. And this time I'm going to drag the tulips into that frame. And once again, it's created a new frame group with a frame layer and the tulips layer. And I have the option of selecting any one of those layers and messing with it. One more time. Let me create another elliptical image. This time drag some clouds into that image and move it around a little bit. Be careful, I want to be selecting the whole frame group, not just the clouds. So I'm going to move the clouds around a little bit, and you see how this works. This exercise has allowed us to explore the layers just a little bit. If I go to the layers menu, you can see that I can choose arrange. Wait a minute, let me back up. Notice which frame layer has been selected. The frame group with the clouds is selected. When I go to the layers menu and select arrange and say send to the bottom, you'll see now that the clouds layer is behind the other layer. As a matter of fact, if I move the clouds around, you can see that the layer is also behind the tulips layer. If I select the frame group that has the windmill, I can say layers, arrange, move that to the bottom, and now I have the different layers overlapping. I could also go ahead and create a text layer and add that to this whole thing. But you can see by using frames, you can arrange different images in different shaped frames and overlap them and create a combination of different images. If we look in the sample image book here, we see that there's a windmill picture here that has a horizon all at a terrible angle. Looks like the water's running out of the picture. So we'd like to fix that. So I'm going to select that image, right-click, copy the image, and then use the Alt-Tab trick to switch back to Paint Shop. And in Paint Shop, I'll select Edit, Paste as New Image. And now I have a copy of this windmill image to work with in Paint Shop. To deal with a slanted horizon, there's a tool called the Straighten tool. If I look here, actually the Straighten tool is together with a Perspective Correction tool. We'll look at that tool in a little bit. So I'm going to select Straighten, and that puts a horizon line on the screen, and there are drag points at the end, so I can actually drag the horizon endpoints and drag this one until I get the horizon line that I would like to have. And now with the straighten line lined up with the horizon as I would like it to be, I'll apply this. And just like that, we now have a windmill picture where the water is not running out of the picture and the horizon is just the way it should be. There are some other tools we could apply to improve this windmill picture. For example, I might try the one-step photo fix, and it brightens it up considerably, but more about those tools later. Next, let's take a look at the perspective correction tool. But for that we need another image to work with. So I'll go back to the sample image book, and I'm going to page around here until I find the display case image, and obviously that needs some help. So I'm going to select the image, then I'll right click and copy the image, Alt-Tab back to Paint Shop, and in Paint Shop, once again, I'm going to say Edit, Paste as New Image, and now I have this photograph of a display case, but it's taken at such an angle that there's quite a bit of perspective here that we'd like to eliminate. So I'll select the Perspective Correction tool. Now the trick here is to grab these little corners and line them up with some place that will show the alignment that we want to end up with. So let me just drag here, drag this one, one more corner, and I'm going to look around and see if I can improve on any of this. If I zoom in a little bit, looks like I can improve that just a smidge. Okay, now that I've captured the image that I want to correct, I'll go ahead and say apply that, and like magic, the perspective has been corrected, and now I can use my crop tool, and I'll just clear this existing crop off, and I'll crop the part of the corrected image that I would like to have. I think right about there. And there I have a nice version of the display case with no perspective warping at all. The next technique for modifying photos is to use the resizing tool. Let's go and fetch a new image for this exercise. And this time I'm going to use this Fall Street view. Select it, right click, copy the image, Alt-Tab back to Paint Shop, and then do Edit, Paste as New Image. And the system remembers I used the crop tool last, so let me just get off of that tool. Now if I check in the lower right corner and inspect the image size, I can see that this image is 1647 by 1235. That's a lot more than I need for emailing this to a friend. By the way, modern digital cameras, even fairly inexpensive ones that have 16 or 20 or more megapixel capability, will create image sizes much bigger than are necessary for emailing or sharing on the internet. If you have a 4,000 pixel wide image, that's all very nice if you're going to print a large poster or a billboard or something. Or if you want to crop a little bit out of the middle, it's good to start with a larger resolution image. But for most practical applications, for example, if I want to include images in a book, a 1024 by 768 image can be enlarged to 8 by 10 without any real loss of the image quality. Well, for the purposes here, I'm going to prepare this to email to a friend. I'm going to reduce the size of this image by selecting the Resize tool, and then I'm going to choose the Advanced and AI-powered settings on, and I have a number of choices here. I can resize by pixels, by percentage, by print size. Let me do the based on one side, and it reminds me that the long side of this image was 1647, the short side was 1235. I'm going to change this to 600 pixels wide. I'll type 600 in there, and then I'll tab, and you'll see that the aspect ratio is preserved using this option. Well, now that I have the new size, I'm going to check the Advanced and Artificial Intelligence powered settings, and I'll just accept these settings, and I'll say OK. And now I'll zoom in here a little bit. Now if I inspect the size of this image, it's 600 by 450. That's much more reasonable to email this to a friend without having their email space completely filled. And the 600 pixels is adequate for displaying in an email attachment And if I email the full-size image to a friend, it'll take longer to transfer, and it will be a larger image than my friend will need for viewing it in their email. Okay, so in this example, we went from 1600 pixels wide down to 600. What if we want to go in the other direction? Let's go get another image from the sample image book to demonstrate this feature. Let me turn the page down here, and let me select the family group image. Right-click, copy, back to Paint Shop, edit, paste as a new image. And let me check this out. The image size is 305 by 320. Well, I'm going to increase this image size, but first, let me do a quick adjustment. I don't like the fact that they seem to be leaning over. So back to the straighten tool and mess with this a little bit. Try to mess it so it looks like they're standing vertically. Apply. That's better. Let me do a quick crop and clear off the crop. Okay, apply that. And now, oh, wait a minute. In the process of cropping, I reduced the image even more, down to 219 by 245. If I zoom in on this image, you can see the individual pixels here. So normally, if I would enlarge this, I will enlarge these little blocks, and that would be not a good thing. However, in the new resize tool in Paint Shop Pro 2022, we have this advanced artificial intelligence power sharing. Let me change the resolution of that picture. Instead of 300, let me make it 1024. And if I tab, you'll see that that'll keep it because it's preserving the aspect ratio. You'll see that's fixed. Okay, here we go. Now this might take a little bit of time. Okay. And if I watch the bottom of the screen, you see the little progress bar there as the artificial intelligence processing takes place. And notice that even though I increased this a lot, I did not increase the size of the pixels. The artificial intelligence routine went in and really improved this picture when I enlarged it. And if I zoom in again, you can zoom way in. You see the individual pixels, the size they are now compared to what they were in that 300 pixel wide version. The resize tool is very powerful, both for reducing the size of an image or increasing the size of an image. And when we increase the size of an image, the artificial intelligence routines kick in and improve the quality of the image and lose a lot of those small pixel blockiness that we had. The next technique we're going to explore is taking an original photograph and modifying it with the Instant Effects tool. We can take a nice calm windmill scene and we can play artist and turn it into a nice charcoal or pencil sketch or many other effects. So let's go find the windmill picture so that we can experiment. By opening the Page Thumbnails option in my Acrobat Reader, I can scroll through the different pictures and find that page 4 has the windmill picture that I would like. So I'll select that picture, right-click, copy the image, go back to Paint Shop, select Edit, Paste as New Image, and now I can use this windmill picture to examine the Instant Effects tools. To do that, I'm going to go to the menu bar, select Palettes, and turn on the Instant Effects palette. And there we have it. In the palette, there's this top line with a little arrow that shows all the categories of effects that we can apply. Let me select the Artistic category. And now you have a whole collection of different effects that you could apply to this drawing. I'm going to try the Find All Images option, and to apply that, I'm going to double click on it. The first time you use it, you may find this Getting Started explanation page. I'm going to tell the system, don't show this window again, and I'm going to close the window. And now you can see what happened when I apply the Find All Edges effect. There's some cleaning up I could do, but this demonstrates the concept. If I like, I can choose File, Save Copy As, and save this version. Or if I want to experiment some more, I'll just select the Undo tool, and now I can go and explore other instant effects. You'll probably want to go through this list of categories and explore a lot of the different effects that are available. If you want to simulate taking a photograph with black and white infrared film, there it is. Let me undo that, and let me look at another. If I scroll down here and explore the different options, there's attempts here to simulate some of the traditional artist techniques. For example, maybe I want to try a watercolor effect. And there you have another interesting variation. So, the Instant Effects tool provides you a lot of ways to apply artistic variations of original photographs. And you could capture all of your different attempts as separate images, and maybe even create a collage like this of all the different instant effects experiments. So enjoy modifying your photographs.